Yeah, well, welcome everybody who is watching us right now, and whoever is going to watch this later also. It's starting to rain here, so it's going to get a little bit intense. I'm really happy to be here as part of International Slackline Association. My name is Helena Gonzalez. I am Nicaraguan Mexican slackliner, and my dog is kind of scared of the thunders, so she's going to be participating on and off. And this is really important for me. I am part of the Nature and Access Commission in ISA, and it's been really amazing to connect with the slackline community, with the slackline practice, from a sense of responsibility of what we can do in order to protect our local environment, protect our relationships, and contribute from where we can to the developing of our practice of what we love, of what we like to share, what we like to live, but following an ethic and a sort of behavior and habits that can contribute not only for us personally, but for people around us in a general speaking, also for the environment itself. So today, what is important for me is to listen to the people who wants to contribute with their ideas, listening to their stories if they have also experiences in their local areas, how they have developed a more sustainable interaction with the environment itself from a slacklining or from wherever you guys find it interesting to share. So for me, sustainability is a really complex subject because it's not just to do green things, no? Like sometimes we tend to think in this as just having more low impact habits with like saying what we consume or the decision we make, but it's also about weaving networks. So that's why I put this image in the presentation that you can look if you pin on it, of a space net, because for me space net is also amazing how little pieces of fabric and little pieces of webbing support you and support many people when you place them in the right place and do the right connections for that to happen. And there you can have fun, you can enjoy life, you can have a beautiful contemplation moment, but because you are supported by something that works and works thanks to many little parts. So I want to just show you a little bit of reference. For me, it's really important to place ourselves. Where are we? And that is something that sometimes we lost a little bit the perspective, because everything is changing so fast, and there are so many things going on that we think this has been like this forever. And in this cosmic calendar that I like to see sometimes, you can see all the years of all the months of the year, how it will be if you put what we know from history of the earth in a calendar of one year. So you can see in this picture how just December will be from the amphibians and reptiles in the 22 of December, and then we have human migrations on the last day of December, the final day. We have from the apes, evolution from the apes to human migration. And then in the last minute, we have the Egyptians are like in the last 20 seconds before the year ends. And we ourselves right now are in the last second. And I'm not talking about right now, I'm talking the industrial revolution itself, that we have like 200, the last 100, 200 years of this planet has been the ones that changed the most the planet itself in this last geological era. or where we are right now. So it's really incredible to see how in just this tiny fraction of the time of the earth as we know it, we have made such a big impact on the land, and also to understand a bigger cycle of a really bigger cycle. Sometimes we lose perspective of it. Evolutionary process where human is the center. Sorry, my dog is a little bit. The human is the center of the equation, and we do everything. So that I think it's good to. Sorry. Ah, I was talking about how. Do you listen to me now? Okay. So when I think about the slackline practice itself and the community of a slackliner, I find that we perceive it from a really anthropocene perspective. Because we are humans trying to do what we love, trying to evolve in what we find important for us, and we do all of our agenda trying to in that direction, no? How the human is the center of the equation, and everything is designed and planned for humans. So I think it's something that is just important to see in perspective, no? To talk about this in when we are with people that we work with, that we enjoy with, and to understand how we can interact with this. So Anthropocene is what is giving us many of the realities we live today. We find this world in a really collapsing, chaotic way, but we really made all this. So we are the decision makers of everything we live, and we have a responsibility. So we are part of a collective responsibility. And I feel like from the different ways we organize ourselves as humans is where the answer is for many of the questions that we sometimes don't understand. Because all the major problems, the major situations are happening in the world now respond to our power as humans, the power we have. And then I have this image that is the mountain. Can you listen to me? Because the rain is a little bit hard here right now. Can you listen to me? Yeah. Can you listen better to me now? Okay, great. So, well, now we have this mountain picture, which is really important because most of the time that we spend as highliners, slackliners, we do it in natural environments. And I feel sometimes we take for granted that too. That this place is gonna be there, this place is gonna give us everything we are looking for, everything we come looking for in these natural areas. And there is some sort of position that I perceive sometimes that it doesn't come from a bad place, but it's kind of like the Anthropocene perspective, no? That we humans have the right to use this, that we humans deserve this. and that we are privileged enough to interact with it. So I feel we are really lucky because we live in a community and we are part of a collective that is able to have quiet moments to observe, to really observe, just contemplation of where are we and what is going on. And that, I feel, is a big resource that we have as community and as individuals also, because this world is going in a really fast phase. It's going really, really rapid, and sometimes we don't have enough perspective to do decision making, to understand where are we standing and how we can relate with reality. And observation is the major goal for that. Is the major tool we can use. So I think when I think about sustainability, I think about what Slackline has given to me in order that I can see the world through the eyes I see it. And that is through observation and having those quiet moments, those mindful moments. Because there is also complexity. Complexity is a really interesting concept also, from where I think it's good to understand and see reality. Because nothing is just as simple as we think. And many things are being part of what we see in order for that to happen. And that happens in nature itself and also happens in human interactions. So when we want to interact with something that we feel is a problem, or we feel is something that is making us feel bad about how it's happening, and we want to change it, or we want to be part of a process of understanding, we need to open our minds to recognize complexity and make some sort of reconciliation with that without feeling overwhelmed about it. And complexities, it's about also how the energy is flowing, because everything is energy, and it's moving through channels that we build as humans and channels that nature itself has created. And we are in a permanent exchanging of energy process. And there are moments where that energy is really tight and really concentrated in some parts, and there are other moments where it's really fluid and individual or more simple in others. So the more concentrated energy is in some parts, you find sometimes some sort of chaos or of hard situations to deal with, and people tend to look another side, or people tend to don't want to be part of that or see it as a negative aspect. But really, it's where energy flows and has more encounters, is where most possibilities also are. Because in this complexity of system, we are all part of this, no? And we can help that energy to flow, and we can contribute from different aspects. So this is, I feel there are really complex subjects if you dive into it, but at the same time, it's just my intention sharing it is just to bring a perspective that is open and is wide open to many things that sometimes we think are wrong or not correct, and it goes beyond from where we are seeing in just the surface. There is other things going on. Okay, and that leads me to this, that is something that I find really interesting and important, that is really simple, but at the same time we kind of lose perspective sometimes out of this, and it's the spectrum of influence that I have. And in sustainability, I think this is really important, because as we said before, reality is complex. It's really complex. And there are many things happening, and there are many ways how to approach to a problem. There are many scales of of how to get into the problem. You can go from a really massive to a really simple and tiny, but that is gonna be part of what I recognize first of my circle of control. What is really I am in control of? And then when you start doing that questions, you realize you are pretty much only in control of yourself and the way you can react to reality. But then it's your circle of influence. But that means there is really not a recipe for this. Everybody's gonna recognize their own circle of influence. And it depends on where are we standing and what are my resources and possibilities to influence around me. It could be my family, it could be my friends, it could be my Slackline community, it could be my community in general, it could be my students, the people who follows me on social network. um, we can find different answers for this. And there's people who works in the government who has a wider circle of influence because they can really make more profound changes. Or there is people that has really big business models and companies and can have a bigger circle of influence with the things they sell and the relationships they have. And there are organizations as ISA, for example, or different local clubs. They have a wider circle of influence because of all the work they have done reaching out all these people. And there is the circle of concern. That is what I really know that is happening and why I put attention into that. And I know that actually exists. I know there are things happening in Europe. I know that things happening in Asia. I know there are things happening outside my house, in my town, in my country. So that is really depending on each of us also. And it's good to differentiate that the circle of concern not necessarily is the circle of influence. Most of the time it's not. So sometimes we feel a little bit overwhelmed of what is happening in the world and how we feel we are really doing things wrong, and we don't know where to start. We don't know where to begin. So this is for me a major, like a really essential aspect of sustainability is recognizing your circle of influence and knowing that you can do from where you are and from what is reachable for you. And this is a image that I like a lot also is the rhizomatic interactions. And it's really a lot how mycelium, that is this the mushroom universe, connects in life. Many things in life respond to a rhizomatic design structure. And that means that we are all connected, coming back to the same thing, and we share a common goal. We share a common, maybe not a common goal, but we share a common matrix that is kind of like holding us together. And I find a Slackline community to be a rhizomatic structure. So, wait, my dog is having a thunder attack one more time. And I feel this really important also to talk about and how we interact with sustainability, because um, it gives importance to what are we doing in our local areas, what are we doing in our families, in our local communities, organizing, making decisions, talking about things, discussing, and being aware that we are also part of a large system. There is all connected. And ISA for me and many other platforms that we can find online are really incredible ways that we recognize that connection and that we recognize how something that is happening in one part of the world is really connected to the other.
And that is some sort of empowering, because there is no small or big. We are all together, we are a big family, and every expression of it, it will be part of that collectiveness. And we take care of each other in a rhizomatic way, and we grow in a rhizomatic way. So I like to believe that, and I think it is just like that. It's just like seeing what is already happening there. And, and coming from this is the art of make something visible. Sometimes we recognize many situations happening in the world that you see how nobody is talking about this. How is not everybody fighting against this company that is doing this? Sorry, how is this? I'm gonna have a pause here. I'm back. So what I feel happens many times is that there is no visibility for what is going on, and that happens a lot with women's, for example, or really some countries in the world or communities that are not visualized because it's not important for the world agenda and for how things have been developed so far. And in sustainability, making visible things that is not visible for a lot of people is a really important fact. Um, and I think we as slackliners, as highliners, as whatever we feel, have a responsibility in that, and have an opportunity in making things visible. So for me, bringing this to the subject is also to the table is also to recognize the power we have, to put in social media, to put in our local clubs, in network platforms that we have. Whatever we see, it needs to be seen. It needs to be here. Okay? And also changing the paradigm. Changing the paradigm from many things. We grew up in belief systems that takes us to have some sort of interpretation of reality. And once we start going deeper in some thinking and reflection making, we realize that things were not the way we thought. And I believe a slackline. Can you listen to my dog bark still? Or she's really afraid of the thunders. I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna try to do something with her. No, wait. She feels the need to protection, and I'm not with her right now. But okay, so changing the paradigm, and this is for me just to be more concrete about one paradigm that is really important to understand, and it's the eternal growing paradigm. We keep growing and we keep growing, and we want to go farther, and we want to do more, and we want to achieve more, and we are constantly in that paradigm because we grew up in a society where in a way that was supposed to be. We were supposed to have more every time, to be better, to grow. And I'm not against that at all. I feel it's really important that we keep growing as persons and we keep evolving. But it's something that we need to understand, the degrowing paradigm, where we don't grow anymore. It's not a bad thing. It's not something that is gonna stop us for developing, but it's gonna change how we interact with the world and how we do our decision making process. Because degrowing, it means going slower. It means thinking long term, not just short term. It means thinking about how we can have what we need, what we really need, without compromising more and more, and without having more to be taken care of in the future. So humanity itself, is a moment right now, I feel, in the world in general, where we are thinking, okay, we got this far right now, so are we gonna keep going in that direction, or are we gonna change? And from our local communities, it's really important that we recognize also this. Okay, and that lead us to the sustainability subject itself. That sustainability, all that I said before, it was just in order to share a little bit from where I am seeing this, from where I am trying to understand the complexity of the world right now, because it's really complex. And sometimes I think only in my local area, which is Nicaragua or Mexico. And when I try to put myself in other people's shoes, I need to understand beyond for what I just see. And that it means changing my personal paradigm of how I relate with the world. So we have this. If somebody of the persons that are connecting wants to, I remind you that you can connect to the Hangout link that is on the comments of YouTube Live if you are watching this on YouTube. And if you want to connect and also open your mic and talk about whatever you feel in Spanish or English, we are also, we can talk in Spanish about any of the subjects we are uh, pointing right now, or we are touching through the whole thing. Please just open the mic and talk. Or you can write on the comment thread, so we can read you, or we can do some exchange of your ideas, what you think is important. So this is really basic sustainability, how do you say, image of how sustainability has been understood in order to do something about it, in order to be able to work for it. So UN, the environmental forums in the world has worked so we can have this concept summarized and in a simple, easy to understand way. So we know where to start. So I think it's really important to have this kind of information available. But I also feel it's not just this, and we cannot just summarize everything to this kind of like conceptualization of the thing. But in order to work, to start, to also share information with people you know, this is a good way. This is a way that we can start to deal with the complexity of this. So we have the environmental aspect, where we have all the nature preservation, biodiversity, protecting species that are hazard, and taking care of what we put in the environment and what we take from the environment, to have a more balanced and conscious relationship. And that includes a lot of subjects. Okay. Then we have the social dimension, that it's a lot about being able to live in a equality um, community, in an equality society, where everybody has access to their basic needs and to education, to keep evolving, to keep understanding, to be able to have the tools to make proper decisions, to interact, to develop in whatever they feel are their passions, and access to health, to health beyond just being sick and going to a doctor, but to really um, an integral, holistic health, and to be able to have the necessities covered in alimentation, housing, everything human needs in order to live in a proper way. And this takes us to the inequality of our society that is really deeply unequal. In every country we go, every country we know, we find inequality. And we also have world inequality. We have inequality between countries, between regions, between how resources are being used, taking resources from one place and bringing it to other places, just to people to have what they want in these places. So there is a big spectrum of inequality that I feel is really important that we talk about this and that we recognize where are we standing. Am I a privileged person in some aspects? Am I an oppressed person in others? We all have different realities, and I feel recognizing our privilege and our oppression give us a reference of how we can interact with the world. Okay? And then we have economic, which is really important because economic itself is about sustainability also. Things need to have an economic sustainability in order to function. If not, we finally get to a point where nobody can do it anymore, or it's not going to happen because we don't have enough resources, or people is burned out of doing it voluntary, of people is not receiving what they really need in order to keep going. So sustainability in an economic way is also changing the paradigm of how we do our economic system. We are part of a capitalist economic system that I feel many people in the Slackline community know this already. We don't want capitalism in the way is going the world. That doesn't function. We don't want to be part of that anymore. But sometimes it's like, okay, so how are we gonna do it? How are we gonna interact with that? Because it's really complex. It's not just about don't wanting. And there are many people studying this with circular economy, alternative economy, regenerative economies. And it's important that we bring this also to our Slackline communities realities. No? So we know how are we going to keep going in order to be more coherent with what we think. And then we have this outside spectrum that is the partnership and the peace, which is really important also because it's the environment of where do you develop all these intentions. Partnership is supporting each other and is making a strategic also alliance with people who they can collaborate and bring something and bring another thing and make it together in order to keep going, to support the dream we are trying to do, because we need that. It's not easy. The world is functioning in another way, and there are even every time more and more people trying to change that, trying to go to a different goal. So we need to find our partners, and we need to build solid partnerships. And the peace sometimes is think as something that is like kind of on a utopia, but peace, I feel for me, is also having the context, having a possibility of developing without being in a constant reaction, resistance. Because resistance is important when you are being oppressed, but you cannot develop if you resist permanently. And that is something that many people live in their daily life. And sometimes when we are too privileged to not see it, we don't recognize how hard it is to develop when you don't have peace, to develop your business, to develop your society, even your attempt to protect a river or a mountain. Okay, so looking at this, we can like start to having an idea of how we can organize all these things that happen in our head that we sometimes we see in the world, we see how our reality is, but we don't understand where we can begin. Okay, so for me, I want to focus a little bit more in the environmental aspect, even though social and economics is also here. But right now, I'm just gonna go through the environmental aspect. And one more time, invite you to join, if you are watching us in YouTube, to join in the Google Meets Hangouts link that is on the comments, so you can enter into the conversation here. And if you want to open your mic and also say something, please do it. If you want to post on the chat, please do it also. I will be happy if you do it, actually. So we have emissions, and this is something that I feel most of us slackliners and people who is in our communities already know. It's something that it's been on the educational system and also in general conversation among from the past years, and it's part of the environmental education that we receive also. But it's not that obvious sometimes, because we don't realize really how much this is impacting and what it means. Everything that we do, every decision we make has an effect on the earth. And there are many studies about this. This is a really good place, our World in Data. It's a website where you can check many charts about many researches that scientists has done, and you can see the summarize of the information in our worldindata.com. I really recommend that one. And I put the link over here so you can check. This one in particular is about greenhouse emissions. And we can see this way really what's going on. How is everything like being handled in the world so far? What is the most important aspect that we need to take care in order to reduce our emissions? And that doesn't mean that other things are not important. Everything is important. But we need to have information in order to make decisions. And sometimes that information is not that easy to access for some people, or it's not something we talk about in Slackline events or in Slackline gatherings, because it's not that fun. It's not that fun to talk about this sometimes. But this is why it's important for me to share this, because I feel we can find creative ways to start interacting with this information, so we can make our decisions and decide how do we want to continue. Okay, so here you guys can look for yourself also if you want to check this later, or go to the website. Electricity and heat is the most is what our emissions we emit. I said like that in English. We emit the most to the environment. Electricity and heat, and that has to do a lot with industry and where we live, the electricity we use for our daily life, production of electricity, for making all this complexity of system able to work every day. Industry, commercial, everything, entertainment, everything. That is really hard for us to actually control. It's really out of our spectrum of influence. But we can do it, definitely. We can be part of a change, measuring green electricities, clean electricities, how we can interact with that in our local communities, in our families, in wherever we live, and how we can protect Earth, trying to use less, to degrow, to make it more simple. Another aspect that is really important is transport. Transport is the second major emission, let's say, I don't know how to say that in English, but it's the second major emission fact, that we has been growing more and more in the past years. It's going up because we are able to get everywhere now. We are able to transport ourselves from one place another, to travel all over the world, to go one place, to change of opinion and go to another one. And sometimes as a slackline community, I feel that is the one that we see them the least, because we don't want to be out of our freedom to make decisions, to go to one place, to go to another festival, to decide to live this kind of lifestyle, nomadic lifestyle. But it has a price. It has a price that it's good that we acknowledge and we think about this. And then we have another aspect. There's manufacturing, agriculture, land use, industrial processes, building waste, and other fuel combustion. So we can check about this and talk about hours with this, but it's just the information is there and it's good to know it. This is another one that I took from that page, and it's about who has contributed the most. We can see here the countries. It's not about who is the guilty and who is the bad guy here, but in this that we're talking about before, this rhizomatic relationship that we have, it's good to know. It's good to know how things are, because we only have one Earth. It's only one Earth. And there are different participations in this, depending on the economic and the political and the cultural lifestyle and the opportunities that you have in different countries. So it's good to know what is happening in the other parts of the world, or if you live in these parts of the world, it's good to know what kind of responsibility your region has to the rest of the world. Because there are other ones that we are in the really short, like tiny square, but we are still responsible of a lot of things. And we need to be able to know where are we standing, what is our context, to have conversations even with people from other places in the world. And this is the scenario. Where are we going if we don't change? Where are we going if we keep our current policies? And what if we take the 2 Celsius pathway and the 1.5 Celsius pathway? Those are strategies that organisms in the world had designed in order for us to reduce the climate change, and only, let's say, try to hold in 2 Celsius change or 1.5 Celsius change. So current policies take us to what is not good, and no climate policies is really horrible a scenario. But how we are part of this, having the information, knowing the information, we can make decisions and we can talk to people. So we have a big responsibility here, and in making decisions that are really important for the future. And making scenarios is not to just panic and be depressed because things are going wrong. Is to know where we could be going if we don't make the proper decisions right now, and why this is so important. why talking about this is really important. So one more time, I invite you guys to check this website, Our World in Data, and you can tap in the search up there, emissions, CO2, and you're gonna see all this. They also do some summarize in the next to it, so you can read what is this about and where they took the information from. And I want to talk specifically about transportation, and because I feel in our community is one of the major things that we still see happening a lot. We are traveling a lot, and I travel a lot also. So for me, it's like also a personal thing that it's been hard for me to digest. But the more I research, the more I can see and tell like how important it is to talk about this and to bring information to people. There is has a wider circle of influence and can make things happen in order to be where we want to be. So here, the flight, one car passenger and domestic flights are the one that have more impact. But domestic flights have a plus effect with non-CO2 emissions. So at the end of the day, flighting is the worst. And now with really cheap flights, we can fly wherever we go, to this festival, to the other festival, and or we want to make that epic legendary mission in that part of the world, or going to this other, and that is having a big impact. And I feel something really important also is to talk about this in events, in Slackline community events, and and bringing to the table this discussion, because people in general, they don't like to change their habits if they feel comfortable with it. But we are part of a rhizomatic system. We are part of a community that we can support each other in what we feel is hard to do or what we are not willing to do, and just bring our voice to the table, just to open the discussion, to talk about it. And many people will say whatever they want. Other people will maybe be more receptive about this. And we can start giving the example for other people that is this is a growing sport, a growing discipline. More people is going to do slackline in the next years. And what we are doing right now as pioneers or as developers of this community, it will have a major effect on other that will come. So it's good to have this as reference, and also to see how do you plan your events to make more coherent. How do you compensate what is gonna happen? And well, I had this map that is also interesting to see where the most of the flights concentrate in the world. And definitely Europe, North America, and Asia have really big impact. Transatlantic flight is really, really bad. And the more developed there is an economy, the more opportunities that we have as where we are, the more people wants to fly and travel and visit regions in the world where they can have experiences and blah, blah, blah. So it's good to think about this, because sometimes we think the more education we have, the more resources we have available, the better decisions we're going to make. And sometimes that's not true. Sometimes the more opportunities you have in this kind of system, the worse you're doing, because you don't realize really how big impact your decisions have. And well, many of you maybe know this already, but you can always calculate your emissions. This first one over here, the carbon footprint, there are many on internet. You can watch many, but this one is a really popular one and in a good one, where you do like a test and you see how much do your lifestyle, the decisions you make, how much you travel, what you eat, blah blah blah. Everything has an effect on emissions, no? And then you see your footprint per year and what you as human are contributing and how many earth, how many planets do we need to hold your lifestyle. So it's really important. It gives you some sort of reference of where are we and what are we doing. And then this other one is calculation of flight emissions. And it's really interesting too because um, you realize really how much is happening there and why it's important that we make really good decisions. There are people that fly every week in their jobs. There are other like us that we fly 2 times per year. It doesn't matter. You know what you do and decide what is better for what you think is important, for how you want to relate. But knowing, I think the knowing part is the one that is important because once you know, you start to think different. And that brings us to the only thing that I find is like, because I love to go to other festivals and places and and be in other parts of the world learning, but really developing local, it seems to be the solution to a lot of things that we try to find in other places. And developing local has many, many, many positive aspects because not everybody has the opportunities that you may have, or not everybody has seen what you have seen or lived what you have lived, but they have other experiences and they may be benefit from what you enjoy in your local areas. And building this community is really beautiful. This is my Mexican community in Potrero, in Mexico, and it's amazing what I have found in these people, and how I see every time more and more people being part of this sport. And I feel really happy that the local develop has going farther and farther. And yeah, I hope, I don't know, I hope that we can really help each other if there is people that needs help developing in their locality. And that is something that ISA I feel is open to do, and there is this like goodwill of helping that these different areas of the world can develop in the sport. So we reduce moving from one side to the other unnecessarily, or just because you cannot do it in your local area. And that takes me to the other subject, that is waste management. Um, this is part also of the environmental aspect, but is part of the social and the economic aspect. It's everything together. And that is about consuming habits. The best way to not reduce waste is to not buy it, to not participate in buying it in the first instance. And this is in a personal, traveling, and daily life. Traveling, daily life, personal, events, personal also, but also collective. What happened where we go to a mission and we buy some things because we need to have some food. What happened with the water we bought? What happened with everything that we bought because we needed it? Where is this going eventually? It's like this. There is a book that is called Promised Land that is really good about this, because we have this idea of there's like this land where everything ends and somebody magically takes care of it when we put things on the garbage, when we create waste. And there is a big responsibility of the companies, but that is out of our circle of influence. Maybe, maybe not. What is in our circle of influence is what we can do in our consuming habits. And this is really important, I feel, also in festivals, because we see many times there are plastic or cans or aluminum or whatever going everywhere. And we need to be able to embody this, to know what's really happening and why this is just not okay. This is not okay, and it's a big expression of anthropocentrism, um, because it's really imposing our will over others and over whoever needs to be in charge of that, because it's not me. And I feel as a community, it's really important to bring this to the table and talk about. Then microplastic is not just regular plastic. This is bad, but this is terrible. Microplastic is just terrible because it's like how I was talking before. If we don't see it, it's not that bad for our mind. So microplastic, we don't see it, and it's not that how do you say, shiny or messy as what this might be. But this is there, and it's in the ocean, it's in the water, it's in the soil, it's everywhere, and it's inside of us, literally. And there are many things that are microplastic, even in the slackline community gear, even in our costumes for getting in the highline and looking beautiful. There are many things that will ended up being microplastic. And that is why it's really important to talk about this and to see how we can deal with this. It's so hard to manage. It's so hard to process, to recollect and have in a bag even. And sometimes it just ended up being in the soil and that's it. So it's really important to talk about this, to microplastic. And this is about consuming habits. So I'll just leave it here as part of many subjects that I feel it's good to have on the table. And then you can check this video and share with whoever you want, or use it as a reference to what you might want to bring to your community or to your event organization or to whoever you want to talk about this. Then we have upside. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yes, I really agree with that because I feel it's great to be in this position right now where we have the opportunity to share with so many people that is highly motivated to do a sport, to enter into a new community, to develop their abilities. Also bring all this that you are sharing, all this information. Okay, how we can minimize our impact and be really coherent with what we think is right. I always think this way, like we go to a place and we receive the medicine of the place. We receive the power of the place with the beauty of the mountains or the beauty of the river. And you nurture, how do you say? You nurture yourself. You feed yourself with it. But and then what you give back? How is the relationship? How is like what am I taking from this place and what am I giving back? Maybe you cannot give back immediately, but just not leaving any trace, leaving no trace is just enough right now. I have a comment here from Laura. The microfibers that come from the webbing. Yeah, well, that's definitely something we don't see. It's hard to see. It's plastic we're living there. It's plastic that we don't see, and it's hard to tell actually. But we walk on plastic, and we are living plastic. Um, how do you say, like inevitable where we are? I think we need to start talking about this, even with our communities and people who manufactures this, the creators of the webbing, because it's there, and it's good to know. Right now, you are just like making this question, and I will tell you, I really don't know because I don't see it, but probably it's there because everything lives, everything starts to disintegrate with time. And it's not like we are gonna destroy a natural area because of this. No, but it's good to know it. It's good to really understand what is our impact, and if we willing to take that price to know that that is happening, or what we can do in order to avoid that. Okay. And then we have the upcycling projects. That these are just photos that I found online, but there is really many opportunities and possibilities of this. What do we do with the webbings that doesn't work anymore? That what do we do with what is not being able to be used as we was originally designed for? Because it's plastic at the end of the day, and we as a community share a responsibility in this. And it's not like it's my responsibility or your responsibility in particular. It's our responsibility because we are all part of this. Like one more time, I go into this rhizomatic kind of structure where we are part of a larger structure of many clubs and associations and people in different parts of the world. And we share these situations. We share the common problems of what do we do with this. So we have the opportunity to work together, trying to find solutions. And I feel it's really motivating because it's also an exercise for creativity and problem solving. People really like to do this. Some people enjoy seeing how do we manage what we face as a problem right now, and how we can work together to make this something that it has coherence. One more time, no? And then try to compress the most you can, and then you have your eco break. Okay, it's really simple, and I really recommend this as a festival activity where we can create eco bricks during the festivals, because people can see really how much are they consuming and how much are they producing. So we have this also, there is greenhouse emission in the supply chain. And this is a controversial subject for many of us, and is what are we eating and how eating beef eats the world. How eating beef is really the largest, by far, contribution to emissions. And then we have other ones like here. You is the same page. You can check it on or world in data. You can go to this and check and put greenhouse emissions food, and you will see this. And I also can share this with you guys on the comments if you feel like checking it. uh, Meat-based diet is really way more destructive that vegetarian or vegan diet. It has way more impact. And I know for many people, eating just vegan or vegetarian is not enough for their necessities. But it's good to really understand what this is bringing to us, and really, especially making your decisions on what do you purchase, what industries are you supporting. And also, eating local is really important. Eating local is consuming what is around you, that you have fresh vegetables, probably organic ones, and you can be part of a supporting system of network. That is a great thing to do. It's a great way to support your local farmers and be part of the process of food production, getting involved in that. But eating local meat is not necessarily something that is bringing less emissions to the environment. So it's good to not believe in what I want to say is do not believe in myth. No? The myth that if you eat local meat, it's not that bad because it comes from local animals. The whole production, the farming production of meat, especially beef, is what it brings the most emissions to the environment. Also, cheese, lamb. Well, we have here coffee, it's a lot also. So it's really important that we take a look on this, that we have the information, and if we feel part sharing with people that we love, that we want to talk about it, just bringing the information out there. It's important so we can make decisions. Transport, here you can see it in red. It has impact, definitely it has, especially for those that are needed to be buy fresh and come from other places and needs to be shipped in plane. Products like avocados, mangoes, maybe bananas, I don't know. Find where do you get, where is coming what you get from, and how it came, in which transportation came, and how far it came from. Do we need to eat something that is not really from here just because we like it? That is a question that I would like to bring to the table also, and that we can share with this with our local communities, in our local clubs, in our events. So my point of view is that we could make only vegetarian eating in events of slacklining. And that is something that it can be discussed, it can be part of a larger process of decision making for everybody in their houses and in their communities and wherever you are. But it's about an statement that you are trying to make things better, even if it's just in your festival or in the event that you are organizing. I think it's amazing to see these kind of examples of how they have done the decision making to be more coherent with this and inspire other people to do it, like me, and like others, no, that we see this and it's like, oh look, this is happening. It's interesting how we can make it, and maybe we can multiply these efforts in our local communities. And this what you mentioned is really interesting, the sponsorship, and it's something that is really good to acknowledge as an event organizer. Who are you receiving a sponsorship from, and how you can make partnership with some sponsors that helps you get the goals in sustainability that you also want, not only the ones for having the gear or having enough publicity, but also to be a more coherent partnership. And a sponsor is really an important subject in this, and it's good to listen from other experiences that have worked in other places in the world. How do they make their decision making? And this leads me to, okay, Mira shares some link here. What is this? This led us to the next subject that I want to talk is soil. Soil is really an fundamental thing to talk about, because that is what our food production depends on, the equilibrium of soil. And sometimes we just take it for granted also. And I feel I have this paradox sometimes, like this kind of internal thing, that we as highliners have our foot in the air sometimes. Most of the time we are walking on the air, and we are on the edge of mountains, or we are interacting a lot with flying, this flying sensation. But then it's good to ground. It's good to put the foot on the soil, to the hands on the soil, and to understand what does this mean. And this is a subject I feel it could be developed also as part of a of in festivals. And this takes me to the poop loop. What is really an important subject to talk, and it has to do with soil, because we have nutrients in soil that we are not bringing back to where we took it. So right now in the system we have chemical fertilizers that go to the growth of food, and then we eat that food, and then we discard that food through our poop, and that goes to water and pollution. In the best scenario, you have a system of treatment that cleans the water and make these different residuals out of the poop, but that doesn't go to the earth where you took that from. And that is really important to know, because we are taking from one place and polluting others. This is a broken cycle that comes from a really basic understanding of how do we relate with nature. So it's hard to talk about sustainability if our daily habits, even going to the toilet and poop, is not congruent. That doesn't mean we need to change everything in our life and start pooping outside in our patio. No, don't take me wrong. But it means about knowing this as a fundamental aspect of our sustainability development, and how we can, from our communities, from our Slackline community, from events organizers, Slackline events, start to think in a more coherent relationship with the poop and with soil itself. So I feel composting toilets workshops could be something that are part of our reality as a Slackline, or making sure that that the places where you develop your activities have a compost toilet. And if they don't have, how the community, the Slackline community, can contribute to having one, or whatever you find as a possibility in this subject, because it's really important that we put attention to the basic, to the essential aspect of life, and that is soil. This is a subject that is also really wide, and you can go far, far, far with this. And I really recommend this website that I put on the side, on this slide, that is earthmatter.org. You can go there and check composting processes, how earth composition, and workshops and things they have that you can use as reference. And then there's many information online that you can check also about composting toilets, and start interacting with this information. Like we talked before, we are developing our community, and this will keep growing, and more people will start doing Slackline. And what information are we putting available to them to make better decisions in how we interact with our environment? So this brings me, for me, it's really related, all the poop thing with the economy. And I learned about this in a sustainability farm where I took workshops, that they have this poop-based economy, because what they took from the earth is what they're going to give back. So every family that is part of the cooperative process, they need to give back their poop. And that's the exchange coin that they have, their poop. So we're not going to do that probably as a Slackline community. But what is really important is to talk about how we are in a degenerating economy. We are degenerating our environment permanently in order to keep sustaining ourselves. We are making decisions and working in a way with materials, energy, land, and resources that is taking every time more, and destroying. Conventional is what we have right now. Then we have the green thing that is like, oh, everything is green, but it's kind of superficially, and it's not really deep into the really the possibilities that we have as humans to make decisions. Then we have the sustainability, the sustainable, which is kind of a middle point where we don't take more than what we can. We keep a balance. But I feel that in order to give what we have taken so far, it's not just sustainable. We need to go to regenerative, to restorative and regenerative. And that means there is a whole theory about this also, the regenerative economies. How do you invest your energy, your resources, and your capital, your financial capital, in processes that are going to keep regenerating with time, like a forest, like a system of composting toilets, like a water cleaning system that is alive, that is a process of living and permanent growing. There are many examples, no? And how we can base our decisions and how we do business, how we do economy in our life, how we invest our energies, changing from a conventional paradigm to a regenerative paradigm. This is also a really complex subject. It's not easy to make just one decision and change everything, but it's also something that I find quite interesting to exchange with people, to bring to the table, to just share, so we can start to making some questions to go deeper and try to understand what is in the horizon, what is beyond there that we maybe are not seeing right now, but we can go there. And then we have the social dimension of it. If I want to be honest, this is the most important part of for me in the sustainability aspect. And I put these concepts here just to give us an idea of what is important for me as in the social dimension, and why I feel it's really work really good at, and is the community impact we can have as slackliners. In these pictures, this is from my family in Mexico. We have a project there. Some people is permanently working there. It's a community project about permaculture and sustainable development and working with the local community. And it's amazing because they organize this gathering of slacklining where people can learn about what are they doing there and how important is this project. Not everybody in this project is a slackliner, only few of them. But it doesn't matter because when a slackliner comes to this event and they see what is happening here, they feel inspired. They really start to think about things that maybe before were not that important. And the social dimension of sustainability for me has to do with interactions with humans. How do we interact and how we um, understand where we are and what power do we have as a community. Maybe we cannot change all the problems in the world. That's too much. But our circle of influence goes a lot to community impact. To understand that when someone see a slackline, when someone interact with the slackline, we are opening a dimension for them, a whole new experience that can bring them to a whole different lifestyle. And that is amazing. That is the most incredible power we have to inspire. And for me, this is,
I would like to
yeah.
hey, I try to say this in English. If not, I would say it in Spanish.
Okay,
Hi,
okay, okay.
everyone. I want to say something about the poo. It's a beautiful thing, and that we need to realize that we are not used to talk about our own shit for saying that. Like first, something I realized while I was removing all the poo actually in Sututa, in this place Elenita just showed us, was that if we all really manage our own shit, but I'm thinking about the things inside of us, like having the humildad, like to recognize ourselves, but watching ourselves without judge. It's like for me, it's important to say that because in my experience, changing things in myself in order to be like more for sustainability. Realize what you said, that it's a lot of facts. So sometimes it could be like overwhelming to see all of that, and it's just about this that you and they suggested. I think it's very important to be making these spaces where we can share our own shit and so realize we in some way or another we still practice some things that maybe are contribute to destroy nature, but also we are doing some other things. So just like share and share how we have been changing our habits. It's important. So maybe people can start doing it, but just again without judge ourselves like so hard, but not even like okay, that's all that I want to say. And
Yeah, yeah,
how
I can feel what you say about humility. How do you say to be humble? I don't know in English how to say to be humble, of recognize your own shit, to be able to see it, to to interact with it, to make yourself responsible for it.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
thank,
One
thank you, Miri.
is that we really need, and I think it's very important to have these spaces. And so, thank you for making this, and still like continuar haciéndolos. Like we need
To
to
continue doing.
uh-huh.
We will continue. Thank you to you and your enthusiasm. That's the fuel we need. It's really important because enthusiasm is the real fuel for life. To be inspired about something and to keep to have the energy to work for it. And I feel this is something that can, among many differences that we can have, coming from different places in the world, we can find ourselves in similarities with these subjects, no, that touch us in a really deep way. And this is for me also part of the social dimension, no? This growing process that we are developing us, and social equality in a way that is being aware of the inequality of the world, of inequality of opportunities, of education, of resources, and how we as an international community, we also can help each other to support whoever needs the most in other places in the world or in your own region, your own community. There are different scales of approximation to it. And the more you open yourself to be sensitive to what you see, to what you observe, the more opportunities you have to interact. And sometimes we get to places and we see something is so wrong, but we decide that this is the great spot for doing a slackline. I want to do here, I want to do highline here, and this community has really, really bad situation. I don't know, let's say with the garbage or violence with women or many things. No? Things in Latin America are different than in the US and in Europe, but there are common things also that we also can find in different places. And there are many subjects about social inequality that could be seen from a perspective of responsibility, of what I can share, of what is in my possibilities, what is my possible of influence. Maybe we're not gonna repair as magic fairies or like wizards the world. We just want into it. It's not like that. It's more complex than that. But we can start to interact with reality, not just see it and being afraid of what we see or being like, oh, that's such a bad thing. I'm so sorry that that happened. But to understand that if you go to a place and you are part of that mountain, or you like to be part of that community in that part of the world, in that region of your locality, and something is going on in that community, you also have the great opportunity to find a way to interact with those people and to give more of what you think you can. You know? Sometimes we think we are not that capable of doing, but we do are. Maybe we just need to understand where or how or when is the right way and what is possible for me or what is not possible for me. But I feel slackline events are really an amazing opportunity for bringing people together with their enthusiasm, their capacities, the love they have for life and discovering and doing something for the community where they are interacting. And this takes me also to something that is really important for me, and is the work with kids, because we are investing in the future. We are investing in humans that are receiving attention, they are receiving powerful tools to know themselves, to be part of something that is going to give them an amazing body work, mind, awareness. But not just that, we can combine some of the community impact work with the investment in kids. And I feel that is just gold. Whatever we are in the world, whatever situation we might face, this is always going to be a regenerative investment, like I said before, in the economy aspect, because these persons are gonna be open to receive, and they probably need that you can give. They probably need it, and they will receive it with a big smile in their faces. And this is a political issue. It's not just because we are good people and we like to play with kids. This is a statement also for investing in how do we want things to be for them, because this is a really chaotic and complex world, and these guys need help. These guys are gonna need some guidance and tools, and we have the opportunity. So whatever you are and you are listening to this, or if you know someone who might be interested, also talk about this, how you can, from your local communities, connect more with your community and with kids of that community. They're going to be really happy probably to receive this. Cultivating inspirations. These pictures are also from Sotuta community in Yucatan, Mexico. And for me, when I think about sustainability and the power of a slackline, it's not it, all this we have talked before. It might seem too much in the air because it's like we can make many decisions, but it depends on people at the end of the day if they want to like take this as something they care about or not. And the only thing we can do for sure as a slackliners is to inspire others, to inspire communities, to put that fuel that we need to keep going, and to bring the message that we are talking right now, the different information that we can access to the people who is watching us, the people who is following us, the people who we gather in these events, the people who we interact with. This is not a sustainability project itself, but we do can inspire many people. Inspiration is a major aspect in our work, I feel right now. And it's amazing how you can bring this to different aspects of your life, and you can use many tools to express it and share it. And for me, sustainability and inspiration are really working together. Planting a seed wherever you go. Wherever you go, whatever community you are, whoever you talk to, and especially if you have the opportunity to create a more concrete project in the locality where you are, plant that seed of awareness. And really, you will be surprised to see in years what that came to be. How can a person can inspire you and can put that information in your life, and that will grow in that person and that community, in that kid, in that other athlete that is starting to develop. So this is my way to finish also a little bit this, because I feel the social dimension itself is having the capacity to organize, to make decisions, to know what is important, and represent what you stand for, represent what is important for you. What we talk about, all these environmental aspects, it's part of a lot of things that you might be in agreement or not, it doesn't matter. It's what you stand for, what you believe is okay, what you believe is right for the world, for the sustainability of the world, for the Mother Earth. And yeah, working on that. And the last subject of this conference is slacktivism. I love that concept because it's really powerful what we can do as slackers. And I'm using this picture of my friends in the border of US with Mexico, and they rigged this line between one border and the other, and it was just really inspiring to see how that attracts so much, a lot of people, so much attention to this. And when we get into a highline and we walk, people look at it, people feel like they want to know who is that person, what is doing, blah, blah, blah. And if you have a statement, a political statement for that, it's even greater, because you can use that power, like this, our friends from Australia, Slacklining Australia, organizing cleaning events in the coast of Australia, living better than how you find it. It's not just about walking the line. It's about contribution of everywhere you go. And for that, you need organization. This is something we've been talking about, developing in the Slackline community. Is a sustainability event guideline. And it's like how we work with event organizers and event participants in order to bring all this information in an easy way to read, to interact with, and to work with the inspirations we have when we go to an event, when we gather all these beautiful people and we have all this open heart and open mentality to receive and plant those seeds that we were talking about. So if anybody sees this and wants to know more about a possible sustainability event guideline, or you are an event organizer, please contact me in the message, in the email I'm gonna share with you right now, so we can work on a Slackline ethic code. No? And this is something that I think is already happening. We do have one. It's just not there. It's not written already, but we are working on that in our daily habits. We are already being part of an amazing community that is taking things seriously and sharing about this in wherever they go. And assembly decision making, I think, is really important. Also develop local clubs, local associations to talk about all this. So this is part of your agenda, that you have your attention put in this, and you know where to start. What is the point A, B, C, D? Where do you want to get? What is your goal and how you want to get there? What do we have as resources? What can we work with? All these things that it might be really complex if you are just by yourself, but if you are part of a collective process of decision making, it could be really inspiring to see how people can contribute from their talents. So this is my mail. Whoever is looking at this, you can write me to this mail and talk about this. And if you want information, if you want to be connected with other people, if you want to contribute to the development of a sustainability event guideline for a Slackline community, you are more than welcome. And I really appreciate the time for looking at this, for listening. And thank you so much. Thank you to Miriana for their help, for holding this space to Slackline International Association. And yeah, thank you.